Gwalior and Lucknow, where royalty and culture reign supreme. Mehru and Smita Bharadwaj in conversation with Sudha Sadhanand. Shehnama is an initiative of Pradha Kisan Foundation, where they are thankful of Rajasthan tourism for their kind support. We thank Shri Simen for supporting Shehnama as a part of their CSR initiative. Last but not the least, our heartfelt gratitude to ITC Rajputana and SR's women for helping us put together this boutique literature festival together. In this session, we experience the loyalty and culture of Gwalior and Lucknow with Mehru and Smita Bharadwaj, who are in conversation with Sudha Sadhanand, while Lucknow-based Mehru has written extensively about the city in her book. A Shadow of the Past, Smita has explored Gwalior through a comprehensive collection of historical photographs in vintage Gwalior. So let's begin the session. I'm inviting all three of them on stage.
Very interesting because two brilliant writers and both of them writing about cities which have a lot of history, a lot of culture. That's what Prabha Mehta Foundation speaks about, and Share Nama actually focuses on. My friend did read about, had short introductions about both the authors here. On my right is Mehru Jaffer, on my left is the other author, that is Smita Bharadwaj. Let me just read out what exactly they do so that we all know where the book is coming. And correct me if I'm wrong, this is from Wikipedia, which is very dangerous. You'll be very, very surprised and happy to know. Mehru Jaffer was born in Lucknow and went on to teach Islam in South Asia at Webster University and University of Vienna. She is the author of several books which include Book of Nizamuddin Aulia, Book of Muhammad, Love and Life in Lucknow, an imaginary biography of a city, the Book of Moinuddin Chishti, and what we are going to focus on today, A Shadow of the Past, a short biography of Lucknow. Also very delighted to welcome Smita Bharadwaj, who is a bureaucrat turned author, and many other things, as we shall discover today. Currently, she is the Principal Secretary in the Government of Madhya Pradesh. She is the author of 4 books out of 3 our coffee table books. Some guts you have, my God, that's a lot of hard work. One of them we shall speak about today, it's called Vintage Gwalior, and the other is Vintage Indore as well. So a round of applause for both of them. And let's start with the book. Mehru, to you first. In your introduction, you say that Lucknow today is an unrecognizable city, with ugly urbanization. Also, how it flourished magnificently, under Asafuddaula. What was it that he did right, which these urban planners, with their fancy degrees and meetings after meetings and resources at their doorstep, have failed to do?
Loaded question. I wish I had the answer to that extreme worry. It's very disturbing to see a city that is almost considered a paradise on earth reduced almost to rubble. Although a lot of people who are madly in love with Lucknow don't like to hear a word of criticism, but I feel one is also critical of things and people and situations that are close to one's heart. Otherwise, why would you bother to emote at all about matters that you don't care for? So I think what is missing, what the difference between the people who are in charge of the city of Lucknow today and the people who actually gave birth to this glorious city. The difference is that I have, my conclusion comes from years and years of research as to why Lucknow developed into such a special place. the word itself, Lucknow, became so magical that the minute you uttered that word, the person listening to that word had their eyes, had stars in their eyes, and they would, you know, be so impressed by you just because one was born and brought up in Lucknow. So this made me very curious. I said, what? In my opinion, when I was growing up in Lucknow was every day becoming more of a town. There were the municipality would forget to change the street lights, and everything was dark and dingy, and we as young people couldn't wait to get out of the city and see the world. And the difference, I can go on and on. The difference between Asif-ud-Daula, who really is the founder of the imperial capital. Lucknow has always existed for centuries. It may have been called Lakshmanpur or Lakhanpur because the mythology is that, when Sita was asked to leave Ayodhya and go into the forest, she was escorted by Lakshman, and they rested on a little hillock before reaching Bittur near Kanpur. And this resting place then got its name from Lakshman. And Ram didn't want Lakshman to be too far away from him when he started ruling, when he came back from exile and was ruling Ayodhya. So he gave this land, which is now called Lucknow, to Lakshman, so that he would be only 200 kilometers away from his beloved brother. So, but till the time of Asif-ud-Daula, it was just a dusty location on the banks of the river Gomti, and its importance was that it was, a whole grain market of all the agricultural activities that that took place in the Indo-Gangetic plain. So, once and you know how fertile that geography is. There are crops that are harvested 2-3 times a year, and all those crops were then collected in this place, which is now called Lucknow. So it was the granary of that area before becoming an imperial capital. Now, what Asif-ud-Daula had to his advantage, I think, was this junoon of bringing people together. Bringing Brahmins from Karnataka.
Yeah, I'm going to talk about that, the Bengali Tola and
Exactly.
different people. But it breaks my heart because I think मुस्कुराइए आप लखनऊ में हैं is no more true. अब नहीं मुस्कुरा सकते हम लोग. I'm going to come back to you because I'm going to talk about the other place. I was having an informal chat with Smita about Gwalior, and she said it's nothing like what it used to be. It is congested now, and छोटे-छोटे वहाँ पे localities हो गए हैं. And this book, this is a coffee table book, and let me tell you, gosh, that it's the toughest to do a coffee table book. You have to source photograph from everywhere. You don't have copyrights for that. Then you write a text. It is the best way to understand a city. If you want to sit here and know what Gwalior is, this is the book, because it talks about the past, it talks about how they lived, it talks about the buildings, it talks about the culture and everything. What made you do this book, Smita? I mean, this is a very ambitious project. Congratulations, but tough.
Thank you, but it was just accidental. I was happy working in the finance department and doing very well. And then, like bureaucratic reshuffles happened and the transfers merry-go-round, I was suddenly transferred from Vitta Vibhag to Puratatva Vibhag. And I went literally in a depression for a month. कि मैं यहाँ क्या करूँ? I think the third phone call to my mother, what am I doing? And she said, listen, I've had enough of this. Every phone call is today. So the same words can be said, Ma, what am I doing? So do something that you've never thought of and use your time. Because I had a lot of time and the archives was also with me. So I started digging deeper and I found the records of Holkars and Scindias, जो 150 साल पुराने थे, written in Marathi, which is my mother tongue. So I could actually read up a lot of things, and then I took a very ambitious project of doing 3 coffee table books in 8 months. And I would finish my work office work, and I had put 3 or 4 people on duty from 8 p.m. to 12 p.m. बाकी 12 बजे तक. I had the state museums with me. It was a huge hall like this, and रस्सियाँ लगा के रखी थी. Vintage Indore इधर, vintage Gwalior इधर, treasure trove इधर. Chalk से मैंने chapters लिखे होते थे, and whatever source material research work उस पे जाता था. And all these guys would be between 8 and 9 calling up people कि आपके पास कोई photographs हैं. And I would travel on the weekends like a maniac, and I would keep collecting stuff. Obviously, I couldn't pay them anything. The only thing I could promise them is if you have any documentation, I can preserve it for you for the next 100 years. So it went on like a frenzy for 5-6 months, and I would prefer to travel by train because I could use my laptop and type in English. मध्य प्रदेश में कोई अंग्रेजी में टाइप नहीं करता है, तो वो भी टाइपिंग भी खुद करनी पड़ती थी, फोटो लेनी पड़ती थी. And I became so obsessed and happy with this whole thing. So this is how it happened. I suppose when my mother told me stop filming and do something creative.
Lovely. You know, your book, Mehru, it highlights, about this city, which was really ideal, if you look at it, particularly the end of the 18th century and much of the 19th century. There was this fabulous amalgamation of infrastructure, the arts, lots of people, like we were just saying, Bengalis coming there to work, and Bengali Tola, and lots of other people also from other communities. If you compare that, because your book highlights that, कि वो आए उन्होंने ये किया, वो आए वो अपने साथ ये ले गया, उसके comparison में आज का लखनऊ जो है, do you think it's very scattered and disjointed?
No, all these different people. All these different people, there is the Kashmiri Mohalla, there is the Bengali Tola, there is the Kais community. Lekin also there is the French Quarter and the British and the Dutch. So I think it was to the credit, to the confidence of the rulers of Lucknow, who were not afraid of other human beings and mingling and living together with other human beings. So they were confident enough, and they were उनको दूसरों के हुनर की बहुत वो कदर करते थे. तो नतीजा ये हुआ, everybody who came, contributed to the growth of the city. That was a paradise for artisans, it was a paradise for intellectuals, it was a paradise for poets. So that is the contrast. Today, the rulers are afraid of other human beings. And they are too afraid to open their arms and to even give strangers a hug. And therefore, they are just isolating themselves, not realizing that the city and their administration and their city and their country is suffering because how much are you going to isolate yourself in the name of purity and one way of living. So that I think is the major difference between some of the rulers of the past. There might have been bigots and conservative and rulers who were not so self-confident, who then believe that they should push other human beings away from them and live in some kind of a singular, homogeneous condition. But the people who mattered, who made Lucknow, were very magnanimous. They believed in a certain kind of a humanism which was above faith and one religion and one way of describing the creator of the world, and this is what made Lucknow so diverse and cosmopolitan in the Middle Ages. You know, when Europe was going through the Dark Ages, Lucknow was going through a renaissance,
Smita has told me when we were having chai that her father was Indian, so she traveled a lot. She's Maharashtrian, but she traveled a lot. So tell me, Gwalior has great tradition of music, the Gwalior Gharana. Tanse was from Gwalior. I mean, you can't get better than that. Great architecture. Of course, there is the Gwalior fort, but I've heard there is also a Sasbahu temple there.
Yes.
So I want to know that we talk about the Sasbahu temple, it's very important. But then the thing is, because you were posted there as a bureaucrat, is that the only reason why Gwalior attracted you, or there is some pull about Gwalior?
Let me tell you one thing. I was posted at Dabra, and before I could join, I was posted out. मेरा luggage वहाँ पे ठीक नहीं रहा था. Oh, it was in the series of transfers, but I was never posted in Gwalior as such. See, when I started doing these books, I wanted to know that when photography came to India, 1860s and 1870s, I wanted those photographs. Like हमारे सबके घर में एक पुरानी एल्बम होती है ब्लैक एंड व्हाइट वाली, हर एक घर में होती है, लेकिन शहर की एल्बम नहीं होती. So I wanted to see how the industries came, the first railway track, the first bridge, how the cultural aspects changed, उस समय का theatre कैसे होता था. So I started documenting from 1870s onwards, whatever black and white photographs I could get. उस समय the royalty could afford the black and white photographs. So इसीलिए वो थोड़ा royalty based इसलिए हो गया कि इंदौर और ग्वालियर में मुझे ज़्यादा photographs मिले जो इस ज़माने के थे. But apart from that, it was very interesting because there used to be very interesting ads in the newspapers. जैसे उस समय साइकिल बेचने का जब चलता था 1880s में, तो उसको पायगाड़ी बोलते थे, पायगाड़ी, पैर से चलाने वाली. और उस एड में वो आता था, कुछ पैसों की आती थी कि मुफ्त में सिखाई जाएगी चलाना. तो इस तरह के एड्स हैं और वो मैंने सब आर्काइव में से निकाले. दूसरा कारण ये था कि आजकल बहुत लोग ना पढ़ना पसंद नहीं करते हैं. उनको अगर कोई बल्कि किताब दे दें, वो पहले फॉन्ट साइज देखेंगे, नंबर ऑफ पेजेस देखेंगे, they'll put it aside. I wanted the children and people who are not so fond of reading to actually open this coffee table book and go through it and at a glance understand the history of their city. तो ये किताब बहुत ज़्यादा पॉपुलर हुई स्कूल्स में और बहुत सारे स्कूल्स ने किताब खरीदी. फिर उसके बाद मिनिस्ट्री ऑफ एक्सटर्नल अफेयर्स ने सारे एम्बसीज और सारे इंडियन कॉन्सुलेट्स में रिप्रेजेंटिंग इंडियन कल्चर की किताब भेजी. और ग्वालियर के सास बहू टेम्पल का तो ये है कि इट कम्स मच बिफोर द सोप ओपेरास, तब से चल रहा है सास बहू. और खैर इनके सारे जो फोटोग्राफ्स हैं बहुत पुराने photographs.
Yeah, this is really a treasure. I mean,
also how ग्वालियर में पॉटरी का काम बहुत सुंदर होता था. ब्रिटिश लोगों की भी सारी जो पॉटरी बनती थी वो ग्वालियर में बनती थी. स्टोन वर्क था, अमेजिंग एम्ब्रॉयडरी का काम होता था. गाने का तो घराना था ही. और इन सब चीजों से वो जो शहर उस समय दिखता था और अब जो है पूरा कंजेस्टेड है. और आपने कहा जो ये सवाल था, तो ये कहीं तो टाउन एंड सिटी प्लानिंग के लोगों को देखना चाहिए कि अपनी विरासत को सहेज के रखें. डेवलपमेंट को करना है तो थोड़ा सा बाहर की तरफ करें और जो पुरानी चीजें हैं उनको वैसे ही थोड़ा सा उनका जन्म.
So I'm going to, actually ask you, Mehru. She spoke about embroidery, pottery बहुत अच्छी है. Your book has that thing about that darning thing, chicken curry. Why don't you tell the audience here about that interesting thing? We all know about Lucknow का chicken curry का काम, मुकेश का काम, ये सब बहुत ही famous है. लेकिन ये आप छोटी सी कहानी सुनिए. It was really riveting.
I think the story is true or false, I don't know. But the story is कोई बहुत fashionable, stylish aristocrat थे जिनको एक अपना कुर्ता बहुत अजीज था. तो उस कुर्ते को में जब वो थोड़ी सी फट गया तो उनको बड़ी तकलीफ हो रही थी ये सोच के कि मुझे ये कुर्ते को मैं नहीं पहन पाऊँगा और आई विल हैव टू डिस्कार्ड इट। तो उनके जो एडवाइजर्स थे जो उनको स्टाइल करते थे, उन्होंने सलाह दी कि एक यहाँ पे बहुत अच्छा रफू करता है टेलर, तो उसको दे दीजिए, शायद वो कुछ कर सके। तो वो ढाका का था सुना टेलर जो था, and as I said, everybody was very welcome. You know, you have to also go back and imagine, use your imagination and see what was happening around Lucknow when Asif-ud-Daula was planning his capital. You know, Abdali had attacked Delhi. Delhi was in ruins, and the Mughal Empire was on its last leg. You know, so there was a lot of chaos and a lot of insecurity. But Lucknow was an island of prosperity and stability. तो जो और शहरों में जो उथल-पुथल थी, you know, Calcutta was also very disturbed place because of the end of the Nawabi period. तो लोग जो कारीगर थे, जो शॉपकीपर्स थे, जो रोजमर्रा के मजदूर थे, they had no jobs, and all these people from west, east, north, south were you know, had personal invites from Asif-ud-Daula to कि आप आइए, हम नया शहर बना रहे हैं और आप उसको आके बसाइए. So you have, you know, 2-3 different kinds of Brahman, Kannauji Brahman, और यहाँ के Brahman, then the caius, and then the tailor, and the tinker, and the soldier. Everybody came, and this Rafugar was from Dhaka. तो उसने वो जो पैर था, वो जो उधड़ गया था ये एरिस्टोक्रेट के कुर्ते में, उसको उसने वो छेद को उसने एक डिजाइन बना दिया, instead of cutting it or throwing away the entire kurta, और वो छेद के इर्द-गिर्द उसने बहुत खूबसूरत सा एम्ब्रॉयडरी करी, and that then eventually, you know, developed into the chikankari. And the karigar also, when he came to give that kurta to the gentleman, then he settled down, and a whole community of embroiderers
Beautiful. Yeah. You know, Smita, in this book you have palaces, you have you know, photographs of royalty. As children, we should speak about that doll like Maharani as well, and you know, several other aspects. But then, what really stood out for me when I was going through this book and I was chatting with you are the dams.
Yes.
I mean, at that time, you know, to have to. My question is, not because you're a bureaucrat, but the thing is, somewhere in this country, and we travel to Italy, we travel to France, we always say, hey, वहाँ कितनी अच्छी तरह अपनी चीजों को संजो के रखते हैं, यहाँ देखो छोड़ देते हैं सब कुछ, सरकार कुछ नहीं करती. We are not at all proud of our cities, of our heritage. Do you think there is some truth to it, that there is general apathy when it comes to preserving our cities, preserving these beautiful things, because we think ये अमीरों के शौक है, हम क्यों करें?
मुझे लगता नहीं है कि हम इसको अमीरों के शौक कह सकते हैं. See, we have so much in our country कि जो हम एक grade 1, grade 2 जो एक गवर्नमेंट कर सकती है, either it is Archaeological Survey of India or the State Archaeological Department, वो लोग तो कर ही रहे हैं. लेकिन एक सिटी प्लानिंग में बहुत ज़रूरी है कि इन चीज़ों को महत्व देके उनका वहाँ आसपास हम लोग एंक्रोचमेंट नहीं करें. That is what we can do. Other thing is a lot of these places, you know, under CSR you can take activities कि इसको preserve करना है, इसको रखना है, because there's always some shortage of funds when it comes to preservation of all these buildings. अभी इंदौर में जैसे राजवाड़ा का किया है, इतना सुंदर बनाया है उसको. So there are examples that where you can do it, you know, with public support, with government support. तो ग्वालियर में मुझे लगता है कि ये जो कहीं पे भी कुछ भी बना देते हैं और उसको बाद में ये हो जाता है कि नहीं ठीक है, कौन इसको निकाले, ये अतिक्रमण कौन हटाए, ये चीज़ें नहीं होनी चाहिए। आपने वो जो महारानी के बारे में बताया बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग है, क्योंकि शी वॉज वेरी शॉर्ट, शी वॉज जस्ट 4 feet, so she looked like a doll, चिमड़ा बाई, और शी वॉज वेरी फॉन्ड ऑफ शूज, तो उनके सारे शूज इतने साइज के थे, छोटे छोटे, एंड दे यूज्ड टू कम फ्रॉम पेरिस, with all diamonds and precious stones on it, and they are still kept in the Gwalior museum, तो वो मुझे बहुत इंटरेस्टिंग लगा। दूसरा, जब रिसर्च कर रही थी तो इनकी जो कहानियाँ थी कि ये शिकार के लिए लेके जाते थे, बहुत फेमस था कि ग्वालियर के राजा जब भी किसी मेहमान को शिकार के लिए लेके जाते थे तो 100% शेर पकड़ा जाता था और 100% सक्सेस होता था। तो एक बार कुछ ब्रिटिश लोगों को लेके जा रहे थे, उनकी अपनी ट्रेन होती थी, तो वो क्या करते थे, पहले से ही शेर को पकड़ के उसको इंजेक्शन दे के उसको बेहोश करके पीछे के कंपार्टमेंट में साथ में लेके जाते थे, और फिर बाद में वो ढोल नगाड़े बजा के उसको वो जगा देते थे और वो शिकार हो जाता था। अनफॉर्चुनेटली इन दिस ट्रिप वो जग गया शेर पहले और वो वहां दहाड़ने लग गया, तो एक कंपार्टमेंट शेर की आवाज, एक में जो शिकारी जा रहे थे वो पहले डर रहे थे कहाँ से आवाज आ रही है। और इसमें ग्वालियर में भी जो वर्ल्ड वॉर 2 में और वर्ल्ड वॉर 1 में इतने सारे सैनिक गए लड़ने के लिए, हजारों में, समथिंग लाइक 30,000 पीपल वर सेंट, जबकि वर्ल्ड वॉर 1 में हमारा तो कोई काम भी नहीं था, लेकिन इतने सारे लोग वहां भेजे गए, उसका सारा आर्मी का डॉक्यूमेंटेशन इसमें है। तो वो चीजें जब हम देखते हैं, when you look at the photographs, you realize the impact it has on the reader, and this is all we went through. And especially when I got the feedback from the children, they said this was very interesting because it is a picture which is 125 years old, which is 150 years old, and you have shown us what we could not have got access to easily. क्योंकि हम ये सारी चीजें एक जगह म्यूजियम में नहीं रख सकते हैं, बहुत सारी प्राइवेट प्रॉपर्टीज में हैं। तो मुझे जहाँ जहाँ मिलता था कि कोई हाँ कह रहा है, मैं वहाँ गांव में पैदल जाती थी कि मुझे प्लीज वो पेंटिंग दे दीजिए, फोटोग्राफ दे दीजिए। तो ये सारा मेरा 6 महीना जो घूमने का काम हुआ जी, इसमें मैं बहुत लोगों से मिली, और किताब के हो जाने के बाद मुझे और देखा, right, which is not part of this book. So I think, and now it's out of print, I should go in for a second edition, with a more revised version, because लोग मांगते रहते हैं किताबें और है नहीं।
बिल्कुल। I want to, politics should not impact the growth of the city. I think growth in the positive manner, not like bursting at its seams and people not being able to cope. But politics does, इसका ये नाम बदल दो, फलां का नाम ये रख दो, नामकरण ऐसे कर दो, ये गिरा दो, ये उखाड़ दो, ये चलता रहता है, और ये it's not party specific. Every dispensation does this. Do you think that Lucknow for the past decade or so has always perhaps, but then for the past decade or so has particularly suffered like many other cities in India because of this political intervention time and time? Ulta Pradesh, you talk about.
Ulta Pradesh, yes. I just want to talk about preservation of our heritage. I think we should not also just imitate the Western museums in preserving our heritage. I think more emphasis should be on living heritage. So you have the slopes of the Gwalior fort, where you have actual shopkeepers, selling whatever they sell, so that the local people can also make a living out of, our heritage and our architectural beauty, so that it doesn't just become a museum piece, but it also provides livelihood. So that was a little bit.
Yeah, I totally agree that its heritage doesn't only mean architectural heritage. There is so much of music, literature, the way we live, the way we eat, and so many aspects. Those also have changed. And how do we preserve that? How do we continue with that?
They should not be passive onlookers, to the heritage. They should be participating in continuing, the heritage. So that was inspired us, as you were saying. Back to your question, you know, if Asif Udora was a brilliant politician and a brilliant monarch and a brilliant, I mean, not so brilliant poet, but you know, you cannot separate politics from art and culture. You know, politics, sociology, mathematics, geography, all part of life and part of our progress.
It kind of impacts.
You know, it would not matter so much if you change the name of the city of Lucknow to Lakshman Puri. I don't care as a citizen, as long as the population is well fed, has a livelihood. You know, our priorities are wrong. You know, we should, and this was, you know, the beauty of 19th century Lucknow. Of course, the aristocracy was far richer, always, than the masses, but there seemed to be enough work and enough jobs and for everybody in the city. You know, there are stories made perhaps exaggerated, but you know, people did not have to beg for feeding themselves. So please change the name. I will not quarrel with you if you, but you know, the citizen, the human being must always come before, you know, a very nebulous concept like nation or a flag, or you know, those things inspire intuitive appreciation and intuitive love. But the universe revolves around the human being. Nobody is superior than a human life. So it's okay, you know, if you change.
Right. You know, your book talks about the Scindias, of course. Shindes were there later, yeah. So I want to ask you, like cities जो है उनका स्वरूप बदलता रहता है, बदलना भी चाहिए, मतलब हर चीज हर वक्त एक जैसी नहीं होती. लेकिन ये जो महाराष्ट्र आपने बोला बहुत सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स मराठी में, तो ये कितना प्रिजर्व हो चुका है वहाँ पर ये महाराष्ट्रियन कम्युनिटी, ये उस अभी भी काबिज है, लोग हैं वहाँ जो भाषा बोलते हैं, त्योहार मनाते हैं, और you think they are moving away and Gwalior is becoming perhaps like, you know, like other cities, a melting pot.
A lot has changed. Change होना भी चाहिए. अभी तो क्योंकि हिंदी है भाषा, तो सारे डॉक्यूमेंट्स पिछले 70-80 साल से तो हिंदी में हो रहे हैं. ये जो डॉक्यूमेंट्स मैंने देखे थे वो 200 साल पहले, 150 साल पुराने डॉक्यूमेंट्स थे. और अब वहाँ के काफ़ी लोग माइग्रेट हो चुके हैं. वहाँ की जो सरदार घराने थे, जो एरिस्टोक्रेसी थी, शितोलेज हैं, पाटनकर हैं, ये सब लोग पूना, बॉम्बे यहाँ आ चुके हैं. और वहाँ पे जिस तरह से ग्वालियर का विकास होना चाहिए था, वो जो 100 साल पहले था, अभी जो वहाँ के एजुकेशन इंस्टीट्यूशंस हैं, वो चीज़ें हैं, वो उस तरह की नहीं है. सो एवरीबडी वांट्स टू सेंड देयर चिल्ड्रन फॉर बेटर एजुकेशन आउट ऑफ ग्वालियर. जो 100 साल पहले ग्वालियर के लोग वहाँ ग्वालियर में आते थे सीखने के लिए, आज ग्वालियर के परिवार चाहेंगे कि उनके बच्चे ग्वालियर से बाहर जाके पढ़ें. तो मुझे लगता है कि एक सिटी का ना एक ग्रोथ साइकिल होती है. कभी वो बहुत ऊपर जाता है और अपने पिनेकल पे जाने के बाद नीचे चला जाता है, लेकिन वो नए स्वरूप में उसको हम फिर कैसे ला सकते हैं, उसके लिए हमको सिटी के लिए प्लानिंग की और बहुत सारी चीज़ों की ज़रूरत होती है. सो आई फील दैट वो एक साइकिल ग्वालियर का हो चुका है. राइट. येट व्हेन आई कंपेयर इट विद इंदौर, इंदौर में भी एक था कि वो होल्कर के ज़माने में जो अप था फिर नीचे गया, इट्स अगेन अप. So it all depends on the policies, how the people interact, react. जैसे इंदौर अब सबसे स्वच्छ शहर है. अब ये 5 साल से जो चीज़ें चल रही हैं, ये एक आम लोगों के बीच में उनके दिमाग में बात बैठ गई है. मैं कहीं जा रही थी, ट्रैफिक सिग्नल पे सामने एक गाड़ी थी, उसमें से किसी ने कुछ खा के कचरा बाहर फेंक दिया. मेरी जो साथ वाली गाड़ी थी, उसमें a mother was driving her daughter to school. That daughter got off, she went, signal red था, she picked up that kachra, knocked at the door and told that person, take it back, this is my city, you don't litter it. So what has happened in the 5 years, every citizen of Indore is proud कि हमें अपना शहर साफ सुथरा रखना है.
Right.
तो ये जो एक कॉमन साइकी है, इससे शहर में बदलाव आता है. इस सोच से शहर बदलता है, इस सोच से ही शहर की प्लानिंग भी होती है. हम ये सब चीजें जब आता है ना, अभी जो चेंज होगा इन अ डेमोक्रेसी, पहले तो राजा रजवाड़े करते थे, अब हम लोगों पे, even as bureaucrats or as government or as common citizens, we all have to be equal stakeholders. तभी change होगा.
Lovely. I think that's a lovely note to end this session. If there are any questions, please raise your hand and maybe we can take. Yeah, please go ahead.
Mehru, I have rather two questions for you and one passing question from Matthew.
May I request you to ask one question so that he also gets a chance? Thank you.
Okay. It will be subpart. We have been hearing about, and you mentioned a lot about Asafullah. And if I'm not wrong, I have been reading, there's an incident where it is mentioned about Asafullah. Probably गुज़िश्ता लखनऊ अब्दुल हलीम शहर की जो है कि जब बड़ा इमाम बाड़ा बन रहा था, उन्होंने बड़ा इमाम बाड़ा बनाने के पीछे का जो था वो केवल यही था कि he wanted to give employability to all the people. वो और उसमें बहुत सारे शहर के aristocrats भी थे. That was there was a big famine in the city. और तब से उनका वो मशहूर हुआ है कि जिसको ना दे मौला उसको दे दे आसुफुद्दौला. And then in his humility he said कि जिसको दे दे मौला उसको क्या दे आसुफुद्दौला. You know, so I just wanted to ask you, is this true or it's just a kiddie word?
I think it's true because historically speaking, there was a famine, and Asifullah had no choice. But he was having a very difficult time with his mother, and the capital of the Awadh region. The region was called Awadh, and it was one of the 12 subhas of provinces of Akbar the Great's kingdom. So Awadh की जो राजधानी थी वो फैजाबाद. So when these warriors of Persian origin were given the governorship of Awadh, they did not want to disturb, the nature of Ayodhya, because they knew that this is a sacred space and every corner has its purpose. So they built their capital next to Ayodhya and called it Faizabad. So that was the imperial capital which Asifullah had inherited from his ancestors and from his father Shuja'ud-Dawla. But his wife was troubling him because the British East India Company had already started to interfere in the politics of Awadh. And Asifullah was a diplomat and he did not want to quarrel with the British because his father had made so many tricky treaties with the British. So, and he wanted also to please his mother. But the mother was, very much against any kind of a relationship with the British. So he had run away from Faizabad and he wanted to live in peace and quiet away from his mother in Lucknow. So even though there was a famine, he still made that city his imperial capital, and this story is true.
Thank you. I think we've run out of time. I think we have to begin our next session on time. I'm so sorry. If you have a short question, please go ahead because you raised your hand.
This is more of an observation.
Sorry?
This is more of an observation. This is to Smita ji, what Smita ji said about cleanliness in Indore. What I noticed, that cleanliness, that fat, that it has picked up, in other parts of the state also, Madhya Pradesh. Like, I went to Jabalpur in 2020, and I didn't find polythene there. So, and I'm told that even Bhopal is getting cleaner because there is competition among the cities. I mean, that's what is happening in Madhya Pradesh.
That is
So-
bound to happen.
I am surprised that it's not happening in Gwalior.
You're totally right in this. Gwalior has still not come to that level of cleanliness. But the tier 2 cities are now gearing up. Because every time there is a review at the state level, obviously they want to see who has done well. And Indore does its best to retain its position. They've done it for 5 years, so it's definitely not by fluke. There's a lot of hard work, and there are a lot of best practices being taken from Indore or Bhopal. Bhopal for 2 years came second, and now they have gone down. It also means that there has to be a very dedicated bureaucrat and a very supportive politician. ये दो चीजें and a stability of tenure. जहाँ ये तीन चीजें आ जाती हैं, then how you connect with the people, that's easy. वो तो हो जाता है, क्योंकि सब लोग चाहते हैं अच्छा काम हो, कौन नहीं चाहता है? But yes, the trickle down effect has happened, and much beyond Madhya Pradesh also, Surat and Visakhapatnam and Chandigarh, it's happening everywhere. So it's a positive change, and it makes a lot of difference when the cities are being planned. That is how it is affected even in the planning.
Thank you so much, and I think session. 2 cities and 2 poets. हमारे यहाँ 2 cities and 2 poets. One being, your city, Gwalior, and Atal Bihari Vajpayee. And your city, lots of poets, but my most favorite, my most favorite is Majaz. Both of them very different, but both of them poets, and what a glorious tradition, both Gwalior and Lucknow. Thank you so much, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you so much. हर शहर की know about Lucknowi came into existence, and then how the king of Gwalior has always been successful in his shikars, in his hunting. So thank you so much. It is always good to know about all these different cities. I would request now Priyanka Kothari, SR's woman Nagpur, to come on the dais and felicitate our speakers and moderators. Come on,